the 20,000 elephants that you'd be sending. What lays ahead now, Your Excellency, in terms of what happens now, given the level of impact that what you said did across Europe?
Well, we intend to keep pressing until we get the maximum benefit out of it. You know, you must think back in history, right from the colonial era. What were we trading in? What were our leaders at that time? Whatever kind of leaders they were, what were they trading in? What were we being exploited on the most? It was trophies. You know, if you look at the keyboards of most pianos in Europe, at least the ones manufactured in the past, they're made from our precious ivory. So there's this propensity by some to aggregate to themselves, abrogate to themselves material values, and when they think it's enough, they want to reject it and devalue it. We don't accept that, particularly when they lose the competitive advantage of value adding. It's about time, as we rebalance order and power in the world, that we too take our place. And so I reject the notion of, when convenient, rejecting benefit out of trophy hunting, and seem to want to use arguments that are condescending, patronizing, and ill-informed about supposed negative deleterious effect on our communities and our rangeland.
Let's talk about with one of Germany relations, and of course going forward. Germany is very big on the service sector, and of course that contributes significantly to its economy. Where we stand as Botswana in terms of wanting also to leverage opportunities for economic growth.
Well, we had a wonderful engagement with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, including the Minister of Environment in Germany. We have, as you know, a very robust, healthy bilateral relation with Germany and at a multilateral level with the EU. And so the relations ought to be defined in those broad parameters. And what Botswana seeks to do is to deepen and broaden the parameters of cooperation, the program of cooperation, which we detailed. We want to focus on vocational education. We want to focus on technology transfer. We want to focus on skills transfer by getting the skilled personnel come onto our shores and train with our people to do certain things. We want to focus on investment promotion, so we get finance capital from the wealthy, moneyed, deep-pocketed in Germany to invest in our economy. And we're getting traction because there are quite a few German investors, even recently, who are investing in Botswana. There's one investor we met with, his dear wife, who've recently put in 500 million pulas worth and putting up a 5-star hotel in the bush, in the Thule block. And they're keen on other investments. We met another who will come to Botswana, fairly soon, and we've agreed to keep it under tabs for the time being, and we will unveil their multi-million-dollar investment in Botswana. So the relations are good. Part of the reason for visits like this is to energize and reinvigorate so that we can get more capital and more opportunities for you and I.
Maybe just circling back to France, Your Excellency, there was the launch of the AVMA, and of course how it postures countries like Botswana in terms of capacitating them within the pharmaceutical space. Where are we as Botswana? You mentioned at the launch that you would want to expand the mandate of BVI, and of course we have NANT Botswana as well. What are your aspirations with regards to the One Health approach? Well,
the BVI example is a brilliant one for actualizing the One Health approach, because BVI has been focusing on the manufacture of vaccines for cattle. We want to expand that, broaden it, and synchronize so that we can produce vaccine for human being in the same facility or using similar skills to broaden it. And that's what we're communicating. It's important that you talk to people who know how to. It's important you talk to people who know, not only know, but also have the patent to do. It's important to talk to governments that have the authority, the power to make it happen. And so we come here to make it known. We come here to seek partnerships. We went there to seek assistance. And that's what the real intention was. But as for our resolve, we learned a bitter lesson from COVID. We will do what it takes to produce human vaccine, however long it takes. We are dead set on that. We're quite advanced in actualizing this. We have our medical experts in training under the very best hands in the world, Nobel Prize laureates. You may know of a gentleman called Dr. Peter Hotez, who works out of the Texas Children's Hospital. They three who are there are under his tutelage in the manufacture of vaccines. And he recently won a Nobel Prize for the manufacture innovation of a COVID unique vaccine.
And then we have Gavi, Your Excellency, and of course how it seeks to fund or capacitate eligible countries. And of course we understand Botswana does not fall within that category of eligible countries given its economic status. What would you have to say about that?
It's important to understand these frameworks. One of the reasons we participate in that, even though we are not eligible because of our economic standing, is the network we're able to garner from that and tap into that to realize our objectives. So it is useful to be there. It's also important to make it known to them that we are a potential solution to the challenge they face. It's important also to make it known to those who fund Gavi that because of our credentials, and we made a very strong pitch for our credentials, a lot of which are premised and predicated on our good governance, our stability, our predictability, our fiscal frugality. All these are important for investment, are important for the stability of offtake of a product.
Your Excellency, you also met with your counterpart in France, Emmanuel Macron. Take us through maybe the type of issues or conversations, if you may, that you may have had with him, maybe with regards to this G7 issue and possibly even issues around fostering relations with France.
Well, indeed, I did have a meeting with His Excellency President Macron. And I must confess, in my 6-year presidency, it was the first time I had an official one-on-one meeting with a leading figure in the industrialized world. And so the issues we discussed were quite broad, from security and stability globally, to issues of vaccine manufacturing and the capacities of France, our bilateral cooperation and how we wish to deepen it, and we detailed every aspect. We committed to growing it, broadening it, intensifying it, to the extent that as I issued an invitation for him to visit Botswana at some time in the future, we would have achieved quite a bit. So it was a mutually beneficial meeting. There was a lot of reciprocity and admiration for one another, and a commitment to support one another.
With regards to that support, was there any conversation around the G7 issue?
There was conversation around the G7 where I detailed in very thorough detail what this meant, and he fully understood, and he pledged to review, consult others, and was apologetic that they had not intended to take an action that would eventually hurt us. And so I am confident that the message got home.
Your Excellency, the last question is just to basically ask, would you say this was a successful working visit to both France and Germany? I
think it was a splendidly successful visit, well worth it. My only regret, and it's really because of time constraints, is that I was not able to get to Belgium, the headquarters of the EU, because I want to really take home completely the G7 issue and our diamond trade issue. I discussed with the Minister of Foreign Affairs in France, and she too, like the French President, understood and appreciated that. And I wish I had the time to go to Belgium to take the point home. But in the US, we also conversed. And so I'm feeling pretty much confident that there will be a rethink on the position of the G7 countries with respect to our trade in diamonds.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
re tsora tswelela puso e ipeetse seelo sa go thusa bagwebi ba le 300 ka didirisiwa tsa kgwebo mo ngwageng wa 2024-2025 go na le go ba neela madi jaaka go ne go dirwa pele mo nakong eno bagwebi ba le 230 ba setse ba thusitswe se se senetswe ke tona wa tlhabololo kgwebo Re Karabogare a losa dialogane di le 50 tsa lenaneo la wealth creation.
Puso ya lona e le rumileng go gone le rumile motlotegi tautona ngaka Mokgweetsi Masisi le rona re le mapalamente le makhanselara a gagwe a bua nna a re ha dithomo tsa gore nne botona ba gagwe re ikaeletse gore lwantshe le huma mme ke batla go gakola so se le sewana batho beso gore kgang ye ya go lwantsha le huma e batla re tlhakanna ko re o ipotsa ha o le nteng wena gore mme kgato e tsayang kana se o se dirang tsatsi le tsatsi se thusa go le kana nkang gore re kgone gore re itlhela gore ntwa kgatlhano le lehuma le botshelo bo bokete re hentse ka go rialo ke atla go supa gore ha re re goromente a re se ka ra re goromente ko le nna ke hane ka gore